This is Gary. I'm going on a short garden, or maybe a fairly long garden tour for today. This is the last day of April. It was kind of, tried to do it yesterday, it was too much wind, and also somebody was blaring the music. It was kind of funny though, because we're out in the country, so somebody's blaring the music, and I really was paying attention to what kind of music, and then I got to listening, and they was playing a song called How Great Thou Art, and it was kind of amusing to me, the fact that they were blaring out the old hymns of the church, and I enjoyed it. It was kind of nice. It's just different. You don't see that in the city. People's blaring music is either going to be rock and roll or country or whatever, but this was actually old church hymns. Anyway, this here is the Hickory King corn, and it's doing real well right now. I fertilized it twice. I will tell you, I don't mind fertilizing stuff, but the corn always makes me nervous because it takes a lot of fertilizing to fertilize this corn. But it's being fertilized right. It's a dark green color, nice broad leaves. This is how you want the corn to look. If you've got corn that's tall and spindly, you did not put enough nitrogen on it. It takes a lot of nitrogen. It takes a fair amount of phosphorus, but usually you got a lot of phosphorus in the soil. But if you're low in phosphorus, you want to add a lot of phosphorus too. But it likes nitrogen, and like I say, you've got to pump the nitrogen to it. It's not going to make it. If you're going to use organic, you want to have that nitrogen built up in the soil over a couple of years. You don't want to say plow up a new plot and try to go organic with it. You just can't get enough nitrogen available for the soil. I'm using conventional fertilizer for this. Then over here, this is the plots, the 52 tomato plants. This is one of the tomatoes that I planted late because of the frost, and those are the older ones. One thing I like about this, we'll show the other plants here in a minute. These are good, nice, tall plants. I planted them February 20th. They got bit back really hard from the freeze we had. Got down just a little bit below 30 degrees on, I think it was March 20th. They've all come back and looking really nice. I've done the Florida weave on the first two plots. This plot here, this row here is of the paste tomatoes. This in here is of the determinate tomatoes. This here is a row of indeterminate tomatoes. I'm not going to each individual one because not really haven't started producing yet. They do have a lot of tomatoes on them, pretty good sized tomatoes, but none of them's ripened yet. When they start ripening, I'll go ahead and show the full size, because I think that'd be more interesting. This in here is a sun gold. It's doing well. Sun gold does tend to do well. It tends to be one of the first ones to produce. I did make my first sun gold ripe tomato today, so I can say, yeah, I did make it April for first ripe tomato, but it was in one of the pots that have up front. This here is the chocolate cherry. It's one of my kind of favorite ones. It's a little bit later variety, but it is starting to bloom, starting to put out. Tropical Sunset is a new variety I never have had. This one here, and it is growing everywhere. It's a wild tomato coming from Mexico, and it's got tomatoes on it. They're gonna be smaller tomatoes, and it is growing all out. I did clip it up, trying to keep it, I don't prune my tomatoes, but I did clip it up, trying to keep it growing up because it's growing out, trying to keep from taking over the two beside it. This is Sunrise Bumblebee, and this is Blush. Purple Bumblebee, and it's making a nice big plant. It's probably got some tomatoes in there somewhere. This one here is Mountain Merit. No, it's Mountain Vineyard. Also got Merit. Mountain Vineyard is a grape type tomato. It produces a lot of tomatoes, and it's a grape type. Let's see if I can put it in here. And I've really enjoyed it. This one here is the blueberries, and they're getting nice and dark. It does take a while. They're not ripe when they look like this. First time we grew them, we started cutting them at that stage, and they're still green. It'll turn kind of a chocolatey color when they're prettier now than when they actually ripen, but they're easy to find, and it is a productive. You can see there's tomatoes here and all over. It's doing well. That's a large, I believe, large cherry tomato. Got a good healthy vine on it. Napa Chardonnay is a very good tasting one. It's starting to put on some fruit. Another sun gold. This sun gold's not doing quite as well. You're getting some variation on plants. But this and this coming on, it kind of got knocked back some. And then you got, this is Champagne Bubbles. Never have had it before, so I don't know a whole lot about it. Now I'm going to come up here and show you, like I say, that is the row of indeterminates, how they're doing. This is the row of determinants, the floor to weave. Got the strings up here. I've already done 2 of those, and that's all the ones, you know, they make a lot and sell a lot at one time. These here, I mean, they're starting to really bloom out, starting to really put on a lot of fruit, got some size to them. That's why I like planting early, because when you plant early, you get the bigger plants. They can just support more. You got the floor to weave going on it. I do like the floor to weave. You do have to hit them kind of early. Some of these are kind of sprawling a little bit. Walk up over here. This is where I harvested the onions, and this is the rest of the garlic. It is very weedy. I need to get here and weed that part. Garlic is starting to head out, so it's probably about 2 more weeks before I pull it. It's not done very well, but some of that's my fault. So it's, you know, just didn't get enough fertilizer to it at the right time. This here's my plot. You start seeing the watermelons and the cantaloupes that's growing up here. I did grow a small row of carrots. Had problems with carrots this year starting out. First carrots froze out in the December freeze, and then another I planted up in a raised bed. Something ate all the plants out. They'd sprout, and then they got eaten. I still don't know if it was birds or if it was worms, but I never did really know. The third time I did, it did okay, but when I was planting the third crop, I went and done this crop in here just in case. And it's starting to put, they're not growing as well as the ones in the raised bed, but it's, you know, they're growing. They're weedy. Just hadn't had time to weed out, was good. This is potato plants. These potatoes were bit all the way back to the ground on that that March 20th freeze, and they come back and they're doing well. Some on the end, the Yukon Gold tends to be a little more disease, have disease on them. This here is a Jujube. It's a Chinese date, and there's the blooms on it. They're very tiny blooms. It's blooming out pretty good. I think this is honey jar. I've got that one. You'll also notice it's got thorns all over it, and they will stick you, and when you bend over and stick you in the rear end, it's not fun. There's another one over there. I've got one there and one there, so I've got plenty. We haven't liked the taste of the fruit yet, but we have not dried it yet. We're going to try to dry it, see if we like it that way. They do, one thing about them, they do send out a lot of sprouts. So all these are the sprouts, and since these are root cuttings, that these sprouts really doesn't produce any type of edible fruit. It's just any wild type of, they just come from seedlings. This here is the topazio beans that's growing. I kind of think I probably should put a little bit of fertilizer on them, but you don't want fertilizer too much. It's kind of, you know, don't know which to do. There's one of my grapevines that I'm growing. I haven't mentioned much about grapes. Haven't really gotten it. I planted them. I do need to do some pruning on them, and that was one I think is a mix between the English grapes and the muscadine grapes, but I forgot the name of it. Here's one of the blueberries that we have, and it's got full of blueberries, and it's one of the rabbit eye blueberries. And ours does good because we get a lot of, ours is a naturally acidic soil, so we can do pretty good. Here's another one of Jujubes. This here, let's see if I can get, is the Ohio blue corn. It's looking good too. I like, you know, it's got the good color to it. It's about a week to 10 days behind the other corn, so it's doing well. I do need to heel up the corn, throw up some dirt on it, and cover up the weeds that's within the row, and get those going. And I'll also apply some more fertilizer to it when I get through. But there's all the rows of it. And this corn I'm going to be making primarily for cornmeal and corn flour, and trying it out, see how it tastes as compared to the Bloody Butcher I grew last year. Going over here, this is tomatoes I planted after Easter. These are just extras that I had. It kind of shows you the difference in size. Now, some of these are dwarfs, so they're going to be smaller. But these over here are some of the hocinators, and I believe those two rows, I believe this row here is of hocinators, and then this row here, yeah, it's going to be of the Shelby. See, it's got the got one of the tomatoes on it there. If you plant late and plant after all the risk of frost, this is what you're going to get. Now, what do they make? We're going to find out. But I'd rather have that tomatoes I got over there. I think they're got a lot better chance. That's why over here we try to grow them out early. I want to have the big, nice tomatoes. You may have to cover them up once or twice, but even when we got the freeze, I was able to cover them up and they survived the freeze. So I'll still continue to even on a bad year, you're better off to grow them early than you are trying to wait till frost is over with. This here is my Guthrie plum, and it's making a bunch of plums on the north side of the tree because the south side of the tree froze out, the fruit froze out on it, and so it's doing well. Hopefully the worms won't eat them up and I won't get too much brown rot on it that rots the fruit, but they are making really well here. Should I thin them? Yes. Am I going to? No. That's just the way, you know, I don't always do what you should do. This here, we got a squash planted in amongst the carrots. Again, I threw a lot of carrot seeds out because at first we weren't getting any. This is a shoot of one of I guess this was probably going to be the ponca. So look at the nice thick shoot that you get down there when they come up. That's be a first year. It's also blooming out now, so that's looking good. There's my lemonade tree that's kind of looking bad. It's not gonna make any fruit this year. I'll trim it back up. It should do okay next year, but it did survive. We got down to 12 degrees. It really had no protection on it to speak of, other than I did put dirt around the trunk, but it made it above the trunk, so you know, I'm pleased with it. Most of the people around here, fruit trees froze out, or the citrus trees froze out and died. My peaches and plums got hit by the late freeze. So I lost all those in the garden. That's why I'm not showing the peach trees and plum trees, except for the ones that are making. So that's going to happen. This here is some of my eggplants there, and they're doing well. So I already got some eggplants on it. Looks like the flea beetles are hitting them too. There's some of the broccoli. I believe it's broccoli. That's growing, and hopefully it'll make. Up over here is another. Now this is a new bed, so you notice the peppers aren't looking quite as good. The eggplants looking not quite as good. This is a tomato plant I probably need to cut out. It's just a wild one coming in. We also get some wild blackberries. That there's a wild blackberry that I need to take out. It's just, you want I don't want the ones without the thorns in them. This here is the row with the bed that's got the carrots in it that's finally done well. It's making well. And then again, we got more carrots over here. This is one of the snap peas. It's got the really pretty bloom to it. I was going to look up the name, I forgot. This is an old established bed, so peppers were all planted same day. This is, you know, they're just doing better because they're in better soil. The soil's been able to build up over time. This is some of the damage we got from the freeze. These are already put out and we're looking good. Some of the fruit was even starting to turn and it froze to kill them all. These hadn't bloomed out, so these will go ahead and make. But this over here is not going to. I debated whether not to cut them back or not. And let me take one more over here to kind of show you another one of the thick primal canes. And again, some of the peppers. So anyway, thanks for watching. If anything in it that you want to look more specific, I can get in more specific on it. Appreciate you watching today. If you like it, hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.